Welcome everyone to our regular meeting of May the 7th. I'll call this meeting to order. As we gather today, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of this committee and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Just a couple of comments. Congratulations to Councillor McMillan for spearheading the Environmental Action Tour, and also Ted and Harold and staff to making it a success. And a special thank you to all the teams that participated, showing that you care. In the same breath, I would like to note the Climate Action Group one of the participants is Ann Pohl from Killaloe. They made a presentation to the County Council, and they were successful in gaining county time to help their cause. Here's a couple of tips from the climate group that came out. One was, don't throw cigarette butts out your window while driving. Twofold, fire hazard. And the second one was, turn your engine off while waiting for your passenger, or if you have to run into the store for a quick errand. Any little thing, I guess, will help. So those are just a couple of notes to that. Does anyone have any pecuniary financial interest? Having seen none, delegations. Gerard.
Yep.
Jerry.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to give me a chance to come in and explain my dereliction and my taxes. I love this town, I love the people in it, and I really am overly embarrassed by not being able to address this sooner, but because of health concerns I've been faced with for the last probably 15 years, I had a really bad injury to my face, and I got infected and went into like my eye sockets and everything. I couldn't read anymore. I couldn't do a lot of things that I was used to doing, and it kind of helped in my situation that I'm in now. But I'm basically here to explain what my insurance man did to me over the years that I was in business. He was a fellow by the name of John Mahady, and with no disrespect to his family or his friends or anybody, they are not him. He was a gentleman unique to the Ottawa Valley in the sense that when he was done practicing his craft with me, he went down and he stole $3.5 million from the Ottawa Minor Hockey Association, and he was also charged with 2 counts of rape in the village of Killaloe by Officer Shirley Desjardins of the Renfrew OPP. And I went to see the authorities about him 35 years ago and told them that he was extorting my business. And their answer was, well, Jerry, if we had to investigate every complaint that a businessman had against his insurer, that's all we'd be doing. And I kind of got that logic, but at the same time, it kind of hurt that, nobody was taking me seriously. And I felt that, my business, the Killaloe Motel, was like, you're like the canary in the coal mine. If you're suffering problems, whether it be with high voltage or power surges or whatever, you're drawing 4 times more current than the average home. So if you go to somebody and complain about hydro, I would like to see a system in place where people right away, their ears go up and go, okay, this guy might have something here, And so over the years, he was allowed to deny me. When I first got here in 1990 or 1989, I noticed that when I went to dip my underground tanks, that the pipe was crooked. And right away, I used to work for Marcus and Son in Pembroke. We did a lot of sewer and water main construction, and I knew right away when the pipe comes out of the ground, it's crooked. It's busted down below probably, it's not even. And so I kind of had to force shell into installing new tanks, and I was dug up for 2 weeks. I put in a claim with him just absolute denial, you have to sue Shell, you have to do this or that. And a man who's a big insurance fellow like him, he's got a lot of clout over a guy like me, because he can call your bank manager, he can call your doctors, he can call your therapist, he can call whoever he wants and cause as much trouble for you as possible. And this went on concerning hydro, like no disrespect, Carl, I know with OPR there and or ORP and but
I don't think it was ORP then, it was Killu Hydro.
yeah, it was Kildu Hydro then, and then I guess it went to Ontario Hydro.
No, Ottawa River
Oh,
Power.
I went right to
Yeah,
Hydro.
in 2000.
I thought we were on Hydro 1 for a while, but
Well, until 2000 year.
okay. But I know when it first got here, like if you saw a lightning bolt in the sky, you knew like 15 minutes later your power was going off. Or if there was a really high wind, you'd be out of power for like hours on end. And so I started complaining about that, and I started calling Ontario Hydro every time we had any kind of outage or surge or anything, and I reported it, and that went on for 4.5 years, to the point where I had to come up with a plan with my lawyer. I said, well, I don't care about all this stuff. I said, how do we catch them? And he said, well, first you'd have to prove that it's not your building that's at fault. And I said, well, it's not my building that's causing the power outage in this area. He said, no, but this is the way we're gonna have to do it. You're gonna have to prove that it's not your building. And then once you prove it's not your building that's at fault, like your panels in proper phase and everything, he said, well, then the onus would be on Hydro to prove that's not coming in off of their line. So on November 9th, 1992, I had the federal government in there, a gentleman by the name of Don Billings. He was the head of the Consumer and Corporate Affairs Electricity and Gas Division. He came in, Hydro had a representative in there, and I had to hire my own electrician to kind of supervise them. And when my building was on full load, it was within 1 amp of being in perfect phase, the closest they had ever seen apparently. So that took a lot of heat off of me. I was really happy with the results. So that meant the onus was on Hydro to prove it wasn't coming in off their line. They weren't too eager, I guess, with that proposition. So on Friday the 13th of November, 1992, 5 days later, I get a call that afternoon from the head of Ontario Hydro in Cobden, and he said, has the insurance guy called you yet? And I said, no. And he said, well, I told him to call you. They want to reach a settlement with you. I said, well, geez, that would be great, you know. And so he called me back about 45 minutes later. He said, did he call you yet? And I said, no, I said, and I have to, it's Friday afternoon, I have to go into National Grocers in Pembroke and get my supplies for the weekend. I said, I can't really play this game. And he said, no. And he said, stick around, I gotta, call you. I'm gonna call him and tell him to call you right now. So this went on and on. They played this phone tag with me. Finally, I missed my National Grocers in Pembroke, so I had to drive to Ottawa to get my groceries for the weekend. And while I was down there, I got 2 blocks from where I was going, and I got rear-ended by a guy 60 miles an hour, according to the policeman, at a high rate of speed. He buckled the roof of my old 77 Cadillac that I spent a year working on before I put it on the road. It was going to be my company car for 20 years. And he took that out of the picture. I had a severe whiplash. I had a sprained chest wall. And if nobody's ever had that, they're like heart attack-like symptoms every 15 minutes or so, like just brutally. And my insurer called me up 2 days later. He offered me $400 for my car. Never said hello or nothing. Like, I'll give you $400 for your car. And I just remember I set the phone down. I couldn't even communicate with him, And he dragged that car accident out for 10 years. They forced me into a settlement where I had to settle for my overdraft at the bank, or the bank was going to shut me down. And this kind of torture just seemed to go on and on with him for years, constantly calling my banker, calling my therapist, my doctors. I guess he was insinuating I was involved in some kind of scam to get money out of the insurance company. So because he has such clout over a guy like me, who are they going to believe? They're going to believe the big official insurance man and over a little guy like me. But the problem was with Mr. Mahadi. When I was a small boy, I grew up playing hockey and coaching hockey in Pembroke as a young man, and he was the head of the Referees Association, so he was a bit of a groomer apparently, according to Victim Services, who I'm in consultation with these days. He was a serial groomer, and he apparently tried to drug me and do things to me when I was a child. But we always knew him as John McCaddy, and I never really realized I didn't know his real name. And so years later, when I'm dealing with him and he's John Mahady, I never made the connection. I never got to see his face. He never came into my store for 17 years. Just always, he would stalk me, I guess, and then as soon as I drive down the road, he'd come in and leave a quick note like, I was here and you weren't, and take off and stuff like this. But it dragged on for years. But my mother also worked with him for CK McGuire Real Estate in Pembroke. She sold real estate during the day. He would come in and sit at her office at 6 o'clock at night and sell insurance. Well, I don't know what he did to my mom one day, but my dad was a proud World War II veteran in Bomber Command for 8 years during the Second World War. He went overseas when he was 15 years old. And whatever he did to my mom was so serious that my dad had a business two doors over, and he walked into the back door of CK McGuire Real Estate, and this was told to me by Paul McGuire, CK's son, when I went to get a ride home from playing hockey with my mom, and she wasn't there, and he called me into his office and he said, your dad was in here this afternoon. And I said, oh yeah. I said, why? And he said, I don't know. He said, but he when he went into the office, he said he slammed that door so hard. He said, I thought he broke it right off the frame. He said, then I heard a scuffling sound, and he said, I heard your dad's voice. And then a short while later, he said, your dad came out, closed the door, and he looked at me, and he never said hi, bye, or kissed my rear end. He said he just walked out the door. He said he never really thought much about it. He just kept writing up his offer or whatever. And he said a few minutes later, he heard the door open. He said he looked up, and there was John Mahady. He said his head was just beet red, and his tie was up over his shoulder. And I thought to myself, oh geez, that doesn't sound very good. But to me, that was all the motive this guy needed to go after me and terrorize me years later, you know. And he made it impossible for me to get like any kind of assistance from the insurers, even though he defrauded me out of I was a little unprepared for this, how I was going to present all this. I wanted to get in some written materials to show you guys, like to back up my story here. But I'm hoping maybe I can get another chance down the road a bit to prove this, because it's all hearsay at this point. I understand that, but just to kind of give you a bit of a rundown of what I was faced with this guy. And just because he stole $3.5 million from the Ottawa Minor Hockey doesn't mean he stole money from me. It's up to me to prove that, and I know I can do it. I kept a daily journal of this stuff for 17 years. All the interactions I had with him and the banks and everybody. And I'm not out to, wreak havoc on the world. I don't believe that because this one individual was a horrible person, that everybody in authority is a bad person. That's why I'm here today, because I believe that good people will help me at some point in this world. And I hope that, maybe if I could be given another couple of weeks, I could get more of this paperwork in. I could present it to you guys. You could look at it, and then maybe you just could have me back for whatever you can do. But if there's any kind of, I've been offered to sell the property to people that want to build new buildings and all that. But if I couldn't get financing for that property because of the underground contamination that was left on the site by Shell Canada underneath the motel and underneath the residence, how is anybody else going to get financing for it if it's all contaminated? So I'd like to be able to present that to you guys so that you're well aware of what the property is like. And, as the current owner, I'm probably in the best position to try to resolve it all if I have people that would be interested in helping me or working with me, or, at least giving me a little nervous officer now. I've never been a delegate before, and it's a little bit of pressure for me. But I firmly believe that because I went to the authorities about him on almost 10 occasions, complaining of his fraud that he was committing against my business, and he had clout over my lawyers. Like, he managed to just take over my lawyers and everybody. So like, I was literally just hanging on by a thread all those years. I operated at a loss almost from the first day I was in there. I never got any compensation. I had a serious permanent injury, neck injury, which I never had before. Yet like,
Jerry, 1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute, okay?
yes sir. Yeah.
1 minute to close up.
Yeah, no, I just, like, if I could get, some relief on my taxes, like, I would be more than willing to pay my fair share, but it's the interest that's just killing me. I couldn't possibly, I don't think, come up with that unless I'm eligible for some kind of grant or a loan, but because I'm working with victim services right now, the lady told me, she said, you can still drive the car, she said, but I'm gonna do the steering. And so I've been working with her, and I've been getting a lot of good results in the last couple of months there. And I feel like I'm in a position where my health has improved enough, my eyesight's come back to the point where I can actually read again and see stuff again. And I think that I'd sure be appreciative if you guys can consider me as a partner in this, and we could try to work through it. That's basically, I don't want to hold this up any more than that.
Does anybody have any comments?
Thank you very much.
Ted?
Jerry, you were saying about getting more paperwork and stuff.
Yeah.
If you did, would you be able to bring it ahead of time
Oh yeah.
so we can
Yeah.
go over
I
it
could.
before you came?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I could do that. If I could have like at least probably like 30 days, I think I could have it all laid out.
Yeah, there's no rushes, whatever works for you.
Yeah, well, no, you guys are operating at a deficit, and I was going through the OPP's website there, and apparently they're all about restorative justice now, and they're talking about how communities are affected by fraud, and how, it's not just individuals, it's communities, and since I had to close my place, like, I've noticed that, nobody can get a quart of milk after 6 o'clock at night anymore. Nobody can buy gas on the weekends, so these are things that, like, literally, like, whether we realize it or not, it kind of affected the whole community. And like my dad used to say, him and his buddies, they'd say, if it's not fair for one of us, it's not fair for all of us. So I just hope you can keep that in mind,
Does anyone else have any questions of Jerry? Well, Jerry, like Ted said, when you,
Yeah, oh yeah, I'll
You
work
come
on
back.
that as soon as I go home tonight.
okay?
Because that's what I've been doing for the last 2 months, was trying to organize all this, because I just never felt healthy enough to ever, like, I just could never see a way out, But now, like, just with my health improving and stuff, like, just in the last 6 months, I've noticed that, like, every day I feel a little better, and
Well, thanks for updating us.
I'm just
keep us
really
informed.
honored to be here with you guys and to have a chance to speak it out,
Keep us in the loop.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Up next, Jacob
Jacob.
via Zoom.
Hi,
Oh.
Jacob.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. We can see you. I'm sorry you can't see us. We have another program going. On, and that's how come you can't see and how come I can't share the screen and all of that good stuff. But I'll let you go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. I just want to confirm that you have the complement slides there on your side.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I will get started. I'll give the rest to kind of walk through, and I'll check in every couple couple pages or slides to make sure that we're on the same page. Just want to start off by saying thank you very much for hosting me virtually tonight. I understand that sometimes with the tech it can be a little tricky, so I appreciate you making this work. My name is Jacob Hanlon. I'm the Municipal Solutions Manager at Food Cycle Science, and I'm excited to discuss our food waste diversion program with you tonight. Top word of the page that says about us, should be page 2. Give a brief introduction here about who we are. So Food Cycle Science is a Canadian company. We are based out of Ottawa, and we are 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions. So we do this using our innovative technology, which is the Food Cycler. If you frequented some of the municipal trade shows, you've probably seen our booth and seen our Food Cycler there. So if not, I have a little few slides that really depicts what Food Cycler is and how it works. But before we get to that, we flip to the third page here. We are currently working with over 130 Canadian municipalities. Our municipal solutions team helps communities across Canada deal with food waste in a way that is not traditional when we think about curbside organics collection, which is in a lot of big cities. But we essentially help communities that are small, rural, remote, northern, or even just communities that are struggling to effectively manage their food waste at the residential level. We do it in partnerships with big cities that have green programs where there's not getting the participation that they want. So our program is really a complement for existing programs, and it's a really great program to help create new diversion in communities that just don't necessarily have an effective way to manage their food waste. Go to the next page there, the municipal impact. So when we look at food waste, the main problem with it is that it is avoidable. It accounts for large portions of our household waste. In some places, it can be up to 50% of our household waste, and when we are dealing with it, it's quite unpleasant to deal with at the household level. It is largely made up of liquid, it's heavy, it's smelly, it freezes in the winter time when we take the bag outside. And then on the municipal level, food waste that's associated with going to the landfill, it's obviously additional tonnage to haul, the residents themselves haul, and when it does end up in the landfill, it is swished in tons and tons of waste. It's in an anaerobic environment where it doesn't have the necessary access to oxygen that it needs to break down properly. So in the landfill, food waste ends up releasing methane gas, which is quite a bit more harmful to the environment than CO2. When we look at food waste in the community, so dealing with it as a resident is obviously not pleasant, but on top of that, it's something that attracts animals. And in a lot of our Canadian communities, we have things like bears, we have raccoons, skunks, different pests and rodents that like to come onto our properties and get into that garbage. So when we remove the food waste from our garbage, it solves all these issues. It can definitely reduce the volume of waste that's going through the waste stream and the landfill. So this can save residents on things like bag tag fees, it can save them hassle with their self-hauling, and it can save the municipality on different fees associated with waste, whether it's garbage collection, cost per ton that's going into the landfill. So a lot of issues that can be resolved by getting food waste out of our waste stream. We'll go to the next slide. How do we solve this already? So we often get asked this question, how do we solve the food waste problem? There are green bins, big cities, expensive infrastructure, the right population density. So this can be pretty cost prohibitive and it can be operationally challenging to implement, and participation is often a challenge with green bin programs. When we look at backyard composting, many people in your community might do this. It's a great solution, but unfortunately it's just not feasible for everybody. Certainly not a year-round solution either with our leaders, and we still have concern about animals getting into that backyard bin. And then finally, the easiest solution would be to continue to landfill organic waste, but the long-term impacts here are quite harmful to the environment and costly. So we'll skip ahead here. This next slide, which has a picture of the Food Cycler, it's usually a video that I play on the screen, but that's alright. We're just gonna go with commentary. So at Food Cycler, what we've done, we proposed a different way to deal with our food waste, which focuses on making it easy to deal with and right in our homes. So essentially, we built a small appliance. It's about the size of a bread machine, and you can put in your food waste, which includes things like meat, poultry, fish, dairy, even some bones. And then in a matter of hours, you push a button, and in 8 hours or less, typically an overnight process, you end up with a dry, odorless, but nutrient-rich soil amendment that comes out. Machine can be used anywhere that has a plug. Most people do keep it in the kitchen, but with countertop space being quite rare, they can really go anywhere that has a plug. So basement, heated garage, laundry room, anywhere in the house. Flip to the next slide here. So we currently have two food cycles that we implemented during these programs. The main reason that we offered you is the capacity. So the FC30 has a 2.5 liter bucket inside, and the Eco 5 has a 5 liter bucket. We find for households of 3 or more, the Eco 5 is a better fit just to effectively manage their daily food waste, but ultimately we leave it up to residents to decide which machine is best suitable for them. We'll head over to the next slide here, which should be titled 90% food waste reduction. Just want to emphasize here that in the cycle that takes 8 hours or less, there's a 90% reduction in the weight and volume of food waste. So it's quite substantial in terms of that volume reduction. Again, it's an 8-hour overnight process. There's minimal electricity consumption between 0.8 and 1.5 kilowatt hours of power, typically between $2 to $4 a month for a resident to be using it. And then I guess the big thing I'll emphasize here is that byproduct that comes out is actually something that's quite useful. So we'll go to the next slide here that has the beneficial uses. Most residents in our programs either join the program because they're interested in managing their food waste and reducing their footprint, and a lot of these people are gardeners, so you can add a byproduct to your garden soil, but not everybody does that, and not everybody can obviously do that year round, so it can also be added into a backyard composter or a similar system. You go to existing yard waste systems, take it to a compost site. Sometimes all local farmers or community gardens that want to partner up and be a local drop-off or pickup for the byproduct. And then lastly, you can go into a green bin or an organics processing facility as well. But at the end of the day, with all these options, there's really no need for it to end up in the garbage. So we find that between these, every resident has an avenue to make their byproduct reintegrated in the community or into their own property in the gardens. For the next slide here, that should be economic impact. When we just briefly compare kind of the more traditional waste management method that involves trucks on the road, collection, when we compare that to the food cycle program, the traditional method, it's a heavily burdened system. There are unrelenting costs, there's trucking, there's labor, there's maintenance. It's really just a fully burdened kind of, I guess, waste management method. But when you look at the food cycle program, it's decentralizing that. So the approach allows food waste to be dealt with right at the source in the household. Residents don't need to get in their car, trucks don't have to come pick anything up. So it avoids those unnecessary labor costs. There's no greenhouse gas emissions from additional vehicles on the road. And there's no infrastructural costs that are involved with that either. Next slide, please. So we'll look at kind of our programs now. We'll talk about the tech, we'll talk about the issue. One thing we've learned from working with our municipal partners is that residents are actually quite interested in being part of the solution, and it's not just the residents that are limited to a certain region or demographic. Whether they're in northern rural Canada or southern Ontario and some of our larger cities there, they're quite interested in this program. They want to try new things, they want options, and they're often quite grateful when their local governments bring these types of things to the community. So with the food site, we get to provide residents with an option for managing their food waste where they may not necessarily have one. We understand that some of tonnage that's now no longer going into the landfill. So if it's a pay per ton system, or even bag tags for residents, things like that, it's really a substantial amount of waste that's now not having to be paid for, and it's cost savings all around for the municipality, the landfill, the resident, and overall just a really good situation for everyone involved. Move to the next slide here, that is the pilot program timeline. So the pilot is typically a 12-week project. The point of it is to test the viability of the program in your community and with your residents. We obviously have a lot of data from across Canada and many different sized communities, but we understand trialing something, piloting it out, especially when it is a somewhat new program, can be very important. So at the start of the program, upon the council approval, our team will help with registration and promotion. And then once those spots are filled up, the residents will purchase the food cycler at the subsidized rate from the municipality. They'll use the unit and track the number of cycles per week using a really nice little track mapping sheet and a resident package that we provide them. And then at the end of those 12 weeks, residents keep the food cycle for good, and they fill out that exit survey. And then we take all of that info, put it into a really nice report and a presentation, and then we present it back to staff or back to you. So then that way we can show the program's success. We provide some recommendations for through what other communities have done in terms of expanding the program further. If there are any grants available to help fund a larger program to get more households involved. These are things that we like to look into and offer as next steps after the pilot. Move to the next slide, which is the funded pilot program options. So this is the pricing structure of our programs. We have the retail price of the machines on the top line there, which you would find on the Vitamix website, for example. We then added our municipal discount and then federal funding, which we have from Agri-Food and Agriculture Canada. This federal funding has been going towards these programs, and between the discount and that funding, it brings the price of the machines down by 50%. We then ask for a municipal subsidy of $100 per participating household, and then the resident pays that final amount at the bottom, either $150 for the smaller machine or $300 for the larger one. And then after that 12 weeks, it's theirs to keep for good. We find that this cost sharing model is really effective at the pilot level. Residents who are signing up, they're interested in this, and they're opted, and they're happy to pay a bit out of their pocket. And they're also going to use it because they've been paying out of their pocket. It's not just going to sit in a closet or in the garage and never get used. And then that municipal subsidy, that amount gets paid back through the savings through waste reduction, through less tonnage, less greenhouse gas emissions. So that's something where kind of by all of us having some skin in the game, we're all invested in it, and we're all really seeing the benefits from the program. Move on to this next slide here, which is just kind of a snapshot here of the overall cost summary for the program. Minimum pilot size is 50 households. That would be a municipal investment of $5,000, and that's $5,000, plus shipping and tax as well. That's a one-time cost there. That is then the lifespan of the machines, which is about 7 years. 7 years of waste diversion from those homes. It's a low-cost organics program. It's been very successful for the past 4 years, and through this cost structure, we've just found that it's been really encouraging for the residents to be able to have access to this technology at that low price, and for municipalities to be able to divert organics at that low cost as well. Move to the next slide here, please, the partnership benefits. I think I kind of touched on all these points throughout the presentation in one way or another, but just some reasons that may resonate with you as to why you should consider piloting the program. Overall, extending landfill life, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and providing your constituents with a low-cost municipal service, all while being a steward for the environment. So with all that, off to the next slide here, I'm just asking today that you kindly see the presentation as information. If there is interest in partnering with us and exploring a public pilot program, we're happy to work with staff to bring a staff before the council with a proposal for a program. So all that being said, I guess the last slide is just a thank you. So thank you very much for allowing me to present tonight. I really appreciate the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Jacob? Well, thanks very much for your presentation, Jacob. We'll pass that around and we'll have discussion and pass it to staff.
Thank you very much, Mayor, councilors, and members of staff. Really appreciate your time, and have a great rest of your evening.
You too.
Motion for the April 16th public meeting, open session.